The simple question of why do protests become riots took me on a journey to understand the evolving landscape of public order policing in our nation, and ultimately to see if police could forecast violence and de-escalate tensions in these events. My name is Brian Thusen. I'm a sergeant with the Seminole County Sheriff's Office in Seminole County, Florida. I'm part of the CHDS cohort 2203-2204. In recent years, especially post-2020, movements like Black Lives Matter and various right-wing groups have not only spurred in prominence, but they've also highlighted the deep social, political divides in our country. As we approach the 2024 presidential election, these public protests will once again become a mirror reflecting these divides. To best understand this landscape required establishing common definitions to describe events that regularly are described with bias. Demonstrations, protests, and riots. These terms are often used interchangeably, but have distinct definitions and implications. Demonstrations are generally peaceful. They're planned events to express opinions on broader issues. Protests, in contrast, are more focused actions, often aimed at objecting to specific policies or decisions, and sometimes involve civil disobedience. Riots, however, are characterized by violence and chaos, and usually stemming from escalated protests. Law enforcement faces significant challenges in these evolving scenarios. With increased protests nationwide, the limitations of police responses become more evident. Agencies grapple with resource allocations and the daunting task of establishing and maintaining trust within our communities. One contentious issue is with the militarization of police tactics. While intended to maintain order, these tactics are often perceived as exacerbating tensions rather than quelling them. This has led to a critical need to reassess strategies and tactics employed by police to effectively manage protests, ensuring that they preserve the public's constitutional rights to peaceful assembly and freedom of speech. The research examined three crowd management models: command and control, negotiated management, and the elaborated social identity model, ESIM. The command and control model is about maintaining order through a show of force, but it often lacks the predictive capabilities for preemptive actions. The negotiated management model, successful in places like the United Kingdom, focuses on dialogue and collaboration, establishing a rapport with protest leaders to facilitate peaceful outcomes. The ESIM goes deeper, delving into crowd psychology to understand collective identity and motivations, which helps in distinguishing potential instigators of violence with peaceful participants. I analyzed movements like BLM, Occupy Wall Street, and the Women's March to understand how these models have effectiveness. For instance, command and control is effective for immediate response, but can escalate violence in peaceful crowds. Negotiated management creates beneficial dialogue, but it struggles in groups without centralized leadership, or groups which inherently don't cooperate with police or other authorities. ESIM offers a deep understanding of crowd dynamics, but it requires extensive training and it faces challenges with real-time analysis to be operationalized. An analysis was conducted to determine the application of these models in three protest movements: Black Lives Matter, Occupy Wall Street, and the Women's March. A consistent theme emerged. Across all three case studies, command and control approaches can exacerbate situations, whereas engaging in dialogue with protesters was generally beneficial. It's important to note that the negotiated management model requires interaction with protest group leadership, which often can be decentralized, dispersed, and dynamic. Utilizing ESIM is highlighted as advantageous in each case, providing an understanding of participant identities and offering insight into their motivations. The command and control model provides the ability for immediate response from law enforcement, while both negotiated management and ESIM may fall short when faced with time constraints. ESIM, while possibly providing helpful information, must rely on another model to operationalize any information garnered. The balance between immediate action and gaining understanding of protest groups underscores the complexities of the law enforcement response to these events. This analysis suggested the potential effectiveness of a composite model that incorporates the strength of all three. The model aims to integrate the immediate response capability of command and control, the collaborative essence of negotiated management, and the deep analytical depth of ESIM. Such a model promises a dynamic, adaptable, and effective approach at managing public order events, with the ability to anticipate points of potential violence and proactively de-escalate situations, preventing peaceful assemblies from spiraling into violent riots. Implementing this composite model is not without its challenges. It requires ample time for police to observe crowds and complete analysis, which might not always align with the urgent timelines of real-world scenarios. Furthermore, there's an imperative need for continuous development and training with law enforcement to integrate these models effectively. Agencies must be prepared to invest in the necessary resources and training to implement this approach. We need to move away from a one-size-fits-all approach and adopt strategies that are refined, flexible, and driven by a commitment to human rights. As we continue to experience periods of increased civil unrest, the equitable management of protests becomes even more critical. The proposed composite model offers a pathway to achieve these goals, understanding that it must be continuously refined to meet the unique challenges of this ever-changing protest landscape.